Hey everybody, welcome back to the Huddle, the Review.com's weekly high school football show. I'm review editor Rob Todor, joined as always by sports editor Mike Brown. And what an interesting week one of the high school football season. A lot of close games, a lot of scoring, that's for sure. And Mike, let's talk about the game that you saw on Friday night. We'll start with the West Branch Warriors going up to Crestwood. A great start for the Warriors, but they couldn't maintain that success.
Right. Typical with a young team. They got off to a big lead. They got up to a 21-7 lead. And then the veteran team, which was Crestwood, kind of got things rolling. And the young team was kind of back on its heels a little bit. And when that happens, things can snowball. And that's exactly what happened. In the second half, they couldn't stem the tide. And they lost 48-21.
Well, we talked about the problems that the Warriors have experienced with injuries, especially at the quarterback position, and they tried some different things, and it might have put Crestwood a little bit on their heels at first.
It did. West Branch had ended the game with 300 yards rushing, which for any game would be good, but they only passed for 19 yards because it's quarterback by committee right now because they've lost their first two quarterbacks probably for the year. And they're trying to experiment right now, and they had three guys in like a shotgun formation taking snaps, and I think that's probably the way it's going to continue until they find their niche.
Yeah, well, it doesn't get any easier for the Warriors this week. They host Crestview, a perennial Division V playoff team, and Crestview with an impressive win over Beaver Local to open the season last week.
Boy, Paul Cusick is one of the best young coaches around here. I mean, he's got a winning record that's something like 150 wins and 60 losses. I mean, the guy's a tremendous coach. They've got a great program. They don't try and fool you with anything. They're just going to line up and come at you. They win by attrition a lot of times. They're just so well schooled, and that will be a tough game for West Branch on Friday night.
Now, I got to take in the Alliance Southeast game on Friday night. The Aviators are everything that we thought they would be. A lot of speed, a very diverse offense, and they're pretty good on defense too. They maybe not get the credit because that offense is so good, but they started out they got out to a 42-0 lead and defeated Southeast 49-22.
This is going to be a very special year for Alliance, especially the fact that Alliance dropped into D3 now with the 7 divisions. Alliance drops down a little bit, and I think it's just going to be a special year for Alliance. I don't see anybody talent-wise that's even close to Alliance offensively in the NBC this year. I mean, if they stay healthy, they're going to be really something special. I think they've got a defense that's highly improved this year, and I think the sky's the limit for the Aviators. I really do, Rob.
Yeah. Now they have a tough test this week. They go to Canfield, which is coming off a 2-win season, but the Cardinals traditionally are a very good football team, and they're tough to play on their home field.
Right. I saw Canfield in the preseason. They were super young last year, went with the youth movement. They've got a lot of those kids coming back. Are they still at the level they were a few years ago? I don't think so, but I still think that's Coach Matt Flansky's got a great program at Canfield, and Alliance has to go on the road for the first time, so the Aviators need to bring it. I think they will. I think the Aviators are good in this one. I really do. But still, you have to go on the road and you have to get the job done.
Obviously, turnovers and getting off to a good start on the scoreboard is going to be key in that game as well. Well, the Marlington Dukes went over to Mahoning County last week. They opened the season a night early at Thursday, facing a playoff opponent from last year, the Poland Bulldogs. And Poland with a veteran team, again, kind of proved that as the game went along. Marlington hurt themselves with turnovers, and I know Ed Miley was not happy with that.
No, he wasn't. But I tell you what, I think you have to kind of throw that one out. I realize you can't do that, but I really think Poland, when we look back in the season 10 weeks from now, the regular season, I think Poland and probably Alliance are the two best teams on Marlington's schedule. Marlington went down there trying to feel its way through with kind of a younger team in spots, and I really think the Dukes are going to be good to go in some of these upcoming games because I think they've got one of their two toughest regular season games out of the way.
Yeah, well, they've got the Crestwood Red Devils, who, as we said earlier, defeated West Branch this week.
Right. Crestwood's team, they have a real good running back coming back from last year. The quarterback, Gabe Surgeon, did a good job against West Branch last week. I think he rushed for over 100 yards. He threw for about 160, 170 yards. He did a very nice job. Crestwood's a team that, they won their last two games last year. They finished 4-6. They started off slowly, but did a good job at the end, beat a couple teams they didn't think they were going to beat at the end of the season, and they're hoping that carries over this year. And they've actually said that I've heard the playoff word around Crestwood. So that could be a good challenge for the Dukes. I really think Marlington, though, they're so usually fundamentally sound on defense. I realize it wasn't the case last week, but I think if Marlington makes tackles in the open field, which they usually do, I think Marlington's going to be good to go against Crestwood this week.
Good battle battle, two veteran quarterbacks for both of those teams as well. Well, the Sebring Trojans got off to a 1-0 start with a big win against Windham on the road, and that was an impressive win for the Trojans.
Right, and again, Sebring went with almost all youth last year. They've got a lot of those kids back. They also have a move-in or two. Nick Ryan moved in from West Branch, a linebacker, and I like him a lot. He's a very good middle linebacker, and they get an opening win over Windham. They've got Southington coming up this weekend. That's another team that's a winnable game for them. So they've got to feel really good in Sebring about how things have started off.
Yeah, and we know high school football, like a lot of high school sports, is momentum driven. And boy, if you get off to a good start, even at 2-1 or 3-0 in the non-conference, that's going to set the Trojans up really well come the ITCL season.
Yeah, and so many coaches have told me, Rob, over the years, especially with the young team, if you can get that W in week 1, it means so much for your psyche as a young player, because then you believe, hey, I can get this done, and then usually one win will lead to 2 wins and on and on. So, and then it can work the other way too with a young team. So that's why it's paramount to get a win in week 1.
Well, Minerva got a win last week in their opener. Western Reserve got a win last week in their opener. Yep. So good starts for those two programs as well. Now, we've talked about the West Branch Crestview game. We talked about Alliance and Canfield. Anybody else this week that those games that you're looking forward to?
Well, we got the rivalry, the old-time rivalry from when they were both in the Federal League. Louisville and North Canton Hoover are going to clash Friday night in Louisville, and that's always a great ball game. Coach DeMarco, they've kind of gone through the West Branch situation. They lost their starting quarterback in preseason, but I guess if you have to lose your quarterback, it's best to lose them in preseason where you have time to adjust, and the Leopards have adjusted. I mean, they're trying some different things at quarterback. They got a win in their opener last week. Now, again, they're going to have to step it up this week against Hoover because you're dealing with Federal League kind of depth. With North Canton Hoover, so that's going to be an interesting battle.
Yeah, and Hoover's they lost to Stowe, which is uncharacteristic for Hoover in their opener, so they're going to be a little more in tune with what they're trying to do. Also, Minerva and St. Thomas playing, and that's an interesting game. I think 2 really good football teams.
Right, we have a new head coach at Minerva, and Mike Hall, and Mike's brought the wing tee to the Lions. That's when I think of Minerva's traditional teams over the year, their best teams. They've been teams that run the ball, and that's what Mike wants to do. They got a win over Field last week, and St. Tom got a win last week. Really, Rob, I believe 8 of our 12 schools won in week 1 last week, which is a good sign, especially with 7 divisions. I think that's going to help get more teams into playoffs this year. So that was a good start for our area last week.
Absolutely. So we definitely invite you to check out the review print edition all week long. We'll have previews on all these games and more. We'll have feature stories as well. Saturday's Alliance Review print edition, of course, will have coverage of all the games, and make sure you follow along too on the review.com. And also invite you to play in the Review's Pigskin Picks contest. You can pick that up in a print edition throughout the week, and you can win some great prizes there as well. So if we see you at a game, stop by and say hello.